They insulted me at dinner, so I served them eviction notices. You know, they say revenge is a dish best served cold. But sometimes, when someone humiliates you in front of the people you love most, that dish needs to be served immediately, with a side of reality check and a garnish of pure justice. I'm Sarah, and what I'm about to tell you happened just 3 months ago, but it feels like a lifetime. It's a story about family, betrayal, and how sometimes the people closest to you can cut the deepest. If you've ever been made to feel small by someone who was supposed to love you, this story is for you. It started on a Tuesday evening in March. I remember because I had just gotten my hair done, and I was actually feeling good about myself for the first time in months. I was hosting my monthly family dinner at my house, something I'd been doing religiously for the past 8 years. My dining room table seats 12, and every month I'd cook for hours, set the table with my grandmother's china, and open my doors to my siblings and their families. It was my way of keeping us all connected, you know? In a world where everyone's always too busy, I wanted to maintain that bond. That particular evening, my brother Jake arrived first with his wife Monica. Now Jake and I have always had a complicated relationship. He's 2 years older than me, and growing up, he was the golden child, the athlete, the charmer, the one who could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. I was the quiet one, the bookworm, the one who helped Mom with dinner while Jake was out playing football. But I never resented him for it. I loved my brother, and I thought he loved me too. Monica, on the other hand, had always been a different story. She married Jake 5 years ago, and from day one, she made it clear that she thought I was somehow beneath her. Monica comes from money, old money, the kind where your great-grandfather's portrait hangs in the country club. She's never worked a day in her life, but she carries herself like she built an empire. She has this way of looking at you over her perfectly straight nose, like she's trying to figure out how much you're worth, and she's already decided it's not much. My sister Emma came next with her husband David and their twin boys, Tyler and Mason. Emma's always been my closest sibling, just 11 months younger than me, and we used to joke that we were Irish twins. She's a nurse at the Children's Hospital, works 12-hour shifts, and somehow still manages to be the most patient, loving mother I've ever seen. David's a good guy, a mechanic who works with his hands and never complains about anything. Their boys are 8 years old and full of energy, the kind of kids who make you remember what it's like to see the world with wonder. The last to arrive was my youngest brother, Ryan, with his girlfriend, Alexis. Ryan's 26, 6 years younger than me, and he's still figuring out his life. He's been through 3 different jobs in the past year, and Alexis is, well, she's beautiful, and she knows it. She's an Instagram influencer, which apparently means she takes pictures of herself drinking coffee and somehow makes money from it. I don't understand it, but Ryan seems happy, so I try to keep my opinions to myself. So there we all were, gathered around my table like we had been dozens of times before. I had spent the entire day cooking. I made my famous pot roast, the one with the secret ingredient that took me years to perfect. I made garlic mashed potatoes from scratch, green bean casserole, honey-glazed carrots, and homemade dinner rolls that take 4 hours to make properly. For dessert, I had made my grandmother's apple pie recipe, the one that's been in our family for 3 generations. Everything was perfect. The table looked beautiful, the food smelled incredible, and for a moment, I felt proud of what I had accomplished. I had created this space where my family could come together, where the kids could run around and play, where we could all catch up on each other's lives. It was my contribution to keeping our family strong. But then Monica started talking. "Sarah," she said, cutting into her pot roast with the kind of precision that suggested she was performing surgery. "This is actually quite good. I mean, for someone who doesn't have professional training, you've really managed to make something edible." I felt my stomach drop a little, but I forced a smile. "Thank you, Monica. I'm glad you're enjoying it." "Oh, I am," she continued, taking a sip of the wine I had carefully selected to pair with the meal. "It's just that when you're used to dining at places like Le Bernardin and 11 Madison Park, well, you develop a certain palate, you know? But this is very homey, very rustic." Emma shot me a look across the table, one of those sister looks that said she was ready to say something, but I gave her a subtle shake of my head. I didn't want to cause a scene. "Monica," Jake said with a laugh, "not everything has to be a Michelin star restaurant. Sometimes a good home-cooked meal is exactly what you need." Of course, darling, Monica replied, patting Jake's hand. I'm just saying that there's a difference between adequate and exceptional. Sarah's cooking is definitely adequate. The word hung in the air like smoke. Adequate. Not good, not delicious, not appreciated. Adequate. Like I was some short-order cook who had managed to not poison anyone. But I swallowed my pride, the way I had been doing for years. Well, adequate is better than nothing, I suppose. That's the spirit, Monica said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. You know, if you ever want some tips, I'd be happy to share some of the techniques I learned during my time in Tuscany. I spent a summer there when I was in college, learning from this incredible chef who had trained at— We know, Monica, Ryan interrupted. You've told us about your summer in Tuscany approximately 17 times. Alexis giggled, and Monica's face flushed slightly. But instead of dropping it, she decided to double down. Well, I'm just trying to be helpful, Monica said, her voice taking on that particular tone that rich people use when they want to sound gracious but are actually being condescending. I mean, Sarah works so hard at this little hobby of hers, and I just think she could benefit from some guidance. Hobby? I said, my voice quieter than I intended. Well, yes, Monica continued, apparently oblivious to the fact that the entire table had gone silent. I mean, it's not like you're a professional chef or anything. This is just something you do for fun, right? Like how some people do crossword puzzles or knit scarves. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Monica, I've been cooking for this family for 8 years. Every month I spend an entire day preparing these meals because I want to bring everyone together. I research recipes, I plan menus, Oh, honey, Monica interrupted, reaching across the table to pat my hand in the most patronizing gesture I'd ever experienced. I didn't mean to upset you. I think it's wonderful that you have this little hobby. It's just that, well, when you're used to a certain standard of cuisine, it's hard to adjust expectations. The table was completely silent now. Even Tyler and Mason had stopped their quiet chatter and were looking around at the adults with wide eyes, sensing the tension in the room. What exactly are you trying to say, Monica? Emma asked, her voice sharp. I'm not trying to say anything mean, Monica replied, her voice taking on a wounded tone. I'm just being honest. I mean, look at this house, look at this table. Sarah's doing the best she can with what she has. It's admirable, really. Not everyone can afford the finer things in life, and I think it's sweet that she tries so hard to make everything special. That's when it happened. That's when something inside me just snapped. Because you see, Monica didn't know the whole story. She didn't know that the house we were sitting in, the house where I had been hosting these family dinners for 8 years, the house with the beautiful dining room and the kitchen where I spent hours preparing elaborate meals, wasn't just my house. It was a house that I owned, along with 3 other properties in the same neighborhood. Properties that I had been renting out to help my family members who were struggling financially. Properties that I had never mentioned because I didn't want to make anyone feel awkward or indebted. Monica didn't know that I had been charging Jake and Monica below market rent for the past 2 years, ever since Jake lost his job at the marketing firm and was struggling to find work. She didn't know that I had been subsidizing their lifestyle, allowing them to live in a beautiful 3-bedroom house for about half of what they should have been paying, because I loved my brother, and I wanted to help him get back on his feet. She didn't know that Ryan had been living rent-free in my studio apartment for the past 6 months, ever since he got laid off from his job at the bank. She didn't know that I had been covering his utilities, his groceries, and even his car insurance because I believed in him, and I wanted to give him the space to figure out his next move. Monica didn't know that the little hobby she was dismissing had actually helped me build a successful catering business that I ran out of my home kitchen. She didn't know that I had been quietly making 6 figures for the past 3 years, catering private parties and corporate events for some of the wealthiest families in our city. She didn't know that I had chosen to keep my business low-key because I didn't want to overshadow anyone else's struggles or make family gatherings feel like networking events. Most importantly, Monica didn't know that I had been documenting every single rental agreement, every subsidized month, every act of generosity, because my accountant had advised me to keep detailed records for tax purposes. I stood up from the table slowly, my hands trembling slightly. Everyone was staring at me, and I could feel my face burning with embarrassment and rage. "Excuse me for just a moment," I said, my voice eerily calm. "I need to get something from my office. I walked to my home office, my legs feeling like they were moving through water. I sat down at my desk and opened my laptop, my fingers shaking as I typed. I pulled up my rental agreements, my financial records, my business contracts. I opened my email and began typing 3 separate messages. The first email was to Jake and Monica. The second was to Ryan. The third was to my lawyer. I printed out 3 sets of documents: official 30-day eviction notices, lease termination agreements, and a detailed breakdown of exactly how much money each of them owed me for the difference between what they had been paying and what they should have been paying at market rate. Jake and Monica owed me $18,000 in back rent differences over 2 years. Ryan owed me $8,400 for 6 months of free rent plus utilities. The numbers were all there, documented, legal, and undeniable. I walked back to the dining room, my hands steady now, carrying the documents like they were sacred texts. "I'm sorry to interrupt dessert," I said, my voice clear and strong, "but I have something for you." I placed the first set of documents in front of Jake and Monica. "This is your official 30-day notice to vacate the property you're currently renting from me. As of today, your tenancy is terminated." Jake's face went white. "Sarah, what are you—" "I'm also including a detailed breakdown of the difference between what you've been paying me and what you should have been paying at market rate for the past 2 years," I continued, my voice getting stronger with each word. "The total amount you owe me is $18,000. I expect payment in full within 30 days. Monica's mouth was opening and closing like a fish. "You can't be serious." "Oh, I'm very serious," I said, turning to Ryan and placing his documents in front of him. "Ryan, this is your 30-day notice as well. You've been living rent-free in my studio apartment for 6 months. Market rate for that apartment is $1,400 per month. You owe me $8,400 plus utilities, which brings your total to $9,200. Ryan was staring at the papers like they were written in a foreign language. "Sarah, I had no idea you were keeping track of—" "Of course you didn't," I said, "because I've been helping you out of love, not obligation. But apparently, my generosity has been mistaken for inadequacy." I turned back to Monica, who was still staring at the eviction notice with her mouth hanging open. "You see, Monica, this house isn't just where I practice my little hobby. This house is the headquarters of my catering business, which grossed $180,000 last year. I've been quietly helping my family members because I love them, not because I can't afford the finer things in life. I choose to live modestly because I prefer to invest in relationships and experiences rather than showing off." The entire table was silent. Emma was staring at me with her mouth hanging open. David was looking back and forth between me and the eviction notices like he was watching a tennis match. Tyler and Mason had stopped eating entirely and were staring at the adults with wide, confused eyes. "But you know what?" I continued, my voice rising slightly. "I've realized that my generosity has been enabling some pretty ugly behavior. Monica, you've spent the past 2 years living in my house, eating my food, and insulting my cooking, my home, and my life choices. You've made me feel small and inadequate while I've been subsidizing your lifestyle." Monica finally found her voice. "Sarah, I had no idea." "No, you didn't have any idea," I interrupted. "You didn't have any idea because you never bothered to ask questions about my life, my business, or my financial situation. You just assumed that because I don't flash my wealth around like some people, I must not have any." Jake was looking at the eviction notice, his face pale. "Sarah, please, let's talk about this. We can work something out." "We can work something out," I agreed. "You can pay me what you owe me, and you can find a new place to live. I'm done being your secret charity case." "That's not fair," Monica said, her voice rising. "You never told us you were expecting market rate rent. We had an agreement." "We had an agreement that I would help you out temporarily while Jake got back on his feet," I replied. "That was 2 years ago. Jake has been employed for the past 8 months, and instead of moving out or offering to pay market rate, you've been living in my house and insulting my cooking." Emma finally spoke up. "Sarah, I had no idea you owned rental properties." "I own 4 properties," I said, looking around the table. "This house, Jake and Monica's house, Ryan's apartment, and a duplex that I rent to 2 teachers at market rate. I've been running a business and managing rental properties for the past 5 years. I've been doing quite well for myself, actually." "Then why didn't you tell us?" Ryan asked, his voice small. Because I didn't want money to change our relationships, I said, feeling tears starting to form in my eyes. I wanted to help you guys because I love you, not because I had to. I wanted our family dinners to be about family, not about business. But apparently, my discretion has been mistaken for inadequacy, and my generosity has been mistaken for obligation. I picked up Monica's plate, which still had half of my adequate pot roast on it. Since my cooking is so rustic and homey, I'm sure you won't mind eating somewhere else from now on. Monica's face was red now, and she was looking around the table like she was expecting someone to come to her defense. But everyone was just staring at her. This is insane, she said finally. You can't just kick us out with 30 days' notice because I hurt your feelings. Actually, I can, I said, smiling for the first time all evening. I'm a landlord, Monica. I know exactly what I can and cannot do. You've been month-to-month tenants for the past 2 years, which means I can terminate your lease with 30 days written notice, which I've just provided. The reasons for termination are detailed in the documents. Jake was reading through the eviction notice, his face getting paler by the minute. Sarah, please, we can't afford to move right now. We don't have $18,000 saved up. You should have thought about that before you allowed your wife to spend the past 2 years insulting the person who was subsidizing your lifestyle, I said, my voice colder than I had ever heard it. I didn't know, Jake said quietly. I swear, Sarah, I didn't know you were charging us below market rate. I thought you were just being a good sister by renting to us. I was being a good sister, I replied. I was being a good sister by charging you bows $200 a month for a house that should rent for $2,700. I was being a good sister by not making you sign a formal lease or provide references or go through a credit check. I was being a good sister by fixing things that broke and not charging you for repairs. Monica was looking around the table desperately. Emma, David, you can't possibly think this is reasonable. Emma looked at Monica for a long moment, then back at me. Monica, you've been really mean to Sarah for years. I've watched you make little comments and put her down, and I've bitten my tongue because I didn't want to cause family drama. But Sarah's been keeping this family together, and you've been treating her like she's beneath you. I never said she was beneath me, Monica protested. You didn't have to say it, David said quietly. It's been pretty obvious. Ryan was staring at his eviction notice, shaking his head. Sarah, I'm sorry. I didn't realize, I knew you were helping me out, but I didn't know you were keeping track of the money. I wasn't keeping track for you, Ryan, I said, my voice softening slightly. I was keeping track for my taxes. When you're a landlord, you have to document everything. I never intended to ask you for the money back, but I also never intended to be insulted at my own dinner table by people who are living in my properties. So, what happens now? Jake asked quietly. Now you have 30 days to find new places to live, I said. You can pay me what you owe me, or we can work out a payment plan. But you cannot continue living in my properties while treating me like I'm some kind of charity case who should be grateful for your presence. I gathered up the dinner plates, my hands steady now. These family dinners are suspended indefinitely. When you're ready to treat me with the respect I deserve, we can talk about resuming them. Monica stood up abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. This is ridiculous. You're being completely unreasonable. Am I? I asked, looking at her directly. You've spent the entire evening insulting my cooking, my home, and my life choices. You've made me feel small and inadequate while sitting at my table, eating my food, living in my house, and when I defend myself, I'm being unreasonable? I was just trying to help, Monica said, her voice rising to a whine. No, you weren't, I said firmly. You were trying to make yourself feel superior by making me feel inferior. There's a difference. Jake stood up slowly, putting his hand on Monica's arm. We should go. Yes, you should, I agreed. You have 30 days to pack. As they gathered their things, Emma came over to me. Sarah, I'm sorry. I should have said something years ago about how Monica treats you. It's not your fault, I said, hugging my sister. I should have stood up for myself sooner. I had no idea you were doing so well financially, Emma said. I'm proud of you. I didn't want to make anyone feel bad, I said. But I realize now that hiding my success hasn't protected anyone. It's just enabled bad behavior. Ryan came over next, the eviction notice clutched in his hand. Sarah, I'm really sorry. I'll start looking for a place tomorrow. Ryan, you're welcome to stay if you want to start paying rent, I said. But I need you to understand that living rent-free isn't sustainable long-term. I was helping you get back on your feet, not providing permanent housing. I know, he said. I should have gotten it together sooner. I'll figure something out. As everyone gathered their things and prepared to leave, Monica turned back to me one last time. You know, Sarah, this is really petty. You're destroying your family over a dinner conversation. I looked at her for a long moment, this woman who had been living in my house, eating my food, and insulting my life for 2 years. Monica, I'm not destroying my family. I'm saving it. I'm finally setting boundaries with people who have been taking advantage of my generosity while treating me like I'm beneath them. That's not petty. That's self-respect. She huffed and walked out, Jake trailing behind her with an apologetic shrug. After everyone left, I sat alone in my dining room, looking at the table still set with my grandmother's china, the half-eaten pot roast, the untouched apple pie. The house was quiet for the first time in hours, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. You see, for the past 2 years, I had been carrying the weight of everyone else's problems while being made to feel like my contributions weren't good enough. I had been subsidizing other people's lifestyles while being told that my own lifestyle was inadequate. I had been keeping my family together while being treated like the family failure. But sitting there in my quiet house, surrounded by the evidence of my success and my generosity, I realized something important. I had been enabling the very behavior that was hurting me. By hiding my success, by not setting clear boundaries, by allowing people to treat me poorly without consequences, I had been teaching them that it was okay to disrespect me. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. Jake had called 6 times. Monica had called 4 times. Ryan had called twice. My mother had called 5 times, apparently having heard about the dinner from Jake. I made myself a cup of coffee and sat down to read through the messages. Jake, Sarah, please call me. We need to talk about this. Monica, I think you completely overreacted last night. We should discuss this like adults. Ryan, I found a studio apartment. I can move out next week if that's better. My mother, Sarah, honey, Jake called me. What's going on? Can we talk? I responded to Ryan first. That's fine. Let me know if you need help with the deposit. Then I called my mother. Sarah, what happened last night? She asked immediately. I told her the whole story from the beginning. I explained about the rental properties, about the below-market rent, about years of Monica's condescending comments, about how I had been trying to help my family while being made to feel like I wasn't good enough. My mother was quiet for a long time after I finished talking. Honey, I had no idea, she said finally. I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself. Really? I asked, surprised. Really? I've watched Monica treat you poorly for years, and I've watched you just take it because you didn't want to cause problems. I should have said something myself. I just got so tired of being made to feel small, I said. You're not small, Sarah. You're successful, generous, and kind. You've been taking care of your family, and instead of being grateful, some people have been taking advantage of you. Over the next few days, I heard from various family members. Emma called to tell me she supported my decision completely. David called to apologize for not speaking up sooner. My aunt called to say she was proud of me for setting boundaries. But the most surprising call came from Jake, 3 days after the dinner. Sarah, I owe you an apology, he said. A big one. Okay, I said, not sure what to expect. I've been thinking about everything you said, and you're right. Monica has been treating you terribly, and I've been letting it happen. I've been so focused on my own problems that I didn't realize how much you've been doing for us, or how much Monica's behavior was hurting you. I was quiet, letting him continue. I also didn't realize how successful you've been. I'm proud of you, Sarah. I'm proud of what you've built, and I'm ashamed that I let my wife make you feel like it wasn't good enough. Thank you, I said quietly. Monica and I have been talking, and we've decided to separate, he said. She doesn't think she did anything wrong, and I can't be married to someone who treats my family that way. I was shocked. Jake, you don't have to. Yes, I do, he interrupted. I should have stood up for you years ago. I should have told Monica to stop making those comments. I should have been a better brother. What about the money? I asked. What about the eviction notice? I want to pay you what I owe you, he said. It might take me a while, but I want to make it right. And I want to start paying market rate for the house, if you'll let me stay. Jake, you don't have to. I want to, he said firmly. I want to be the kind of tenant and the kind of brother you deserve. 2 weeks later, Monica moved out of Jake's house. She went to stay with her parents while she looked for her own place. Jake stayed, and we worked out a payment plan for the back rent. He started paying market rate immediately, and he's been the best tenant I've ever had. Ryan found a nice studio apartment across town and moved out within a week. He got a new job at a tech startup and seems to be doing well. He pays me back $50 every month, and at this rate, he'll have his debt paid off in about 15 years. But I'm not worried about it. The important thing is that he's taking responsibility. The most surprising development came a month later, when I got a call from a woman named Patricia. "Is this Sarah?" she asked. "Yes. How can I help you?" "My name is Patricia Chen, and I'm a food blogger. I heard about your catering business from Emma. She's a friend of mine from the hospital. She told me about your family dinner situation, and I was wondering if you'd be interested in catering a private dinner party for some food critics next month." I was confused. "I'm sorry. How did Emma—" "She brought some of your leftover pot roast to work the day after your family dinner," Patricia explained. "She was telling us about what happened, and she let us try the food. It was incredible. We all agreed it was some of the best home-style cooking we'd ever had." I started laughing. "Are you serious?" "Completely serious. Emma said you made everything from scratch, including the bread. She said your apple pie was better than anything she's ever had at a restaurant." That dinner party led to 3 more catering jobs, which led to a feature in our local food magazine, which led to a partnership with a local event planning company. My little hobby has turned into a thriving business with a 6-month waiting list. But the best part happened 2 months ago when I decided to restart the family dinners. I sent out invitations to Emma, David, Ryan, and Jake. I made it clear that the dinners were by invitation only, and that respect for the host was a non-negotiable requirement. Jake brought his new girlfriend, Sarah. Yes, we have the same name, which makes things interesting. She's a teacher, and she spent the entire evening asking me about my recipes and complimenting my cooking. When I told her about my catering business, she asked if I'd be interested in teaching a cooking class at her school. Ryan brought his new girlfriend, too, a woman named Lisa, who works as a nurse with Emma. She's kind, funny, and she actually helped me serve dinner without being asked. Emma and David were there with the boys, and for the first time in years, the dinner table felt like a place of love and support rather than judgment and criticism. As we sat around the table, eating my pot roast and laughing about Tyler's latest school project, I realized something important. I had learned to value myself enough to demand that others value me too. The house was full of people who appreciated my cooking, my generosity, and my company. Nobody called my food adequate or suggested that I needed professional training. Nobody made me feel small or inadequate. For the first time in years, I felt truly appreciated. After dinner, as I was cleaning up, Jake came into the kitchen. "Sarah, I need to tell you something," he said. "What's that?" "This was the best family dinner we've ever had." I smiled, loading the dishwasher with my grandmother's china. "I think so too. I'm sorry it took me so long to realize what we had," he said. "I'm sorry I let Monica treat you the way she did. I'm sorry I didn't stand up for you." "It's okay, Jake," I said. "We're good now. And we are good now. Better than good, actually. My family dinners are smaller now, but they're filled with people who genuinely want to be there, people who appreciate the effort I put in, people who treat me with respect and kindness. I still live in the same house, still cook elaborate meals, still use my grandmother's china. But now, when I look around my dining room table, I see people who value me for who I am, not people who tolerate me despite who I am." Monica never apologized. She moved to another city and married a man who owns a chain of restaurants. Jake heard she tells people that she used to be married to someone from a really dysfunctional family. I suppose that's her version of the story. But here's the thing I learned from all of this. Sometimes the people who love you need to be taught how to treat you. Sometimes being generous and kind isn't enough. Sometimes you have to be willing to lose relationships in order to save them. I lost Monica, but I never really had her to begin with. What I gained was self-respect, healthy boundaries, and family relationships based on mutual appreciation rather than one-sided giving. My catering business is booming, my rental properties are doing well, and my family dinners are filled with laughter and love. I sleep well at night, knowing that I'm surrounded by people who value me, and that I finally learned to value myself enough to demand that treatment. If you're watching this and you recognize yourself in my story, if you're the person who's always giving, always accommodating, always trying to keep the peace while others treat you poorly, I want you to know something. You deserve better. You deserve to be appreciated, respected, and valued. And sometimes the only way to get that treatment is to be willing to enforce it. You don't have to accept adequate treatment from people who should be grateful for your presence in their lives. You don't have to hide your success to make others feel better about their failures. You don't have to enable bad behavior in the name of keeping the peace. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do is serve someone an eviction notice from your life. What do you think? Have you ever had to cut someone off to teach them how to treat you? Let me know in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please share it with someone who might need to hear it. Sometimes we all need a reminder that we're worth fighting for, even if we have to fight for ourselves. Until next time, remember, you teach people how to treat you. Make sure you're teaching the right lessons.